We are sitting in front of a turntable set here, and we're going to go over 3 different scratch techniques that I believe are not only easy to learn and basic, but they're the foundation of a lot of other scratch techniques that you're going to learn in your career. We're going to go over the baby scratch, we're going to go over the chirp scratch, and we're going to go over the transformer scratch. So let's get into it. So if you notice on this record player here, you see I've got my phaser lined up. My phaser's lined up at 12 o'clock. There's also a yellow dot on here as well. That's before I had the phasers, and that lets me know as a turntablist where my sample is going to start, at least whenever I cue it up. So depending on where you cue it, whether you cue it at 12 o'clock, at 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, or 9 o'clock, as long as you as a DJ know where the top of your sample starts, you'll be in good hands as far as the sound of the scratch goes. And here's what I mean by that. Another thing you want to do is when you are scratching on a sample, you want to kill your bass because it helps the sample sound a lot cleaner. You also want to change, there's a setting on in Serato in the settings where you can change your crossfader from a smooth transition in between here to a sharper cut. It's called the curve, and if you look under your settings, you'll find the crossfader curve, and you want to set it on the point, the one that looks like a table, the one that looks like this with a straight line on top, not the ones that are swerving together like that, because what that means is the second this fader opens, this sound is going to play, and the second the fader opens this way, this sound is going to play at its maximum volume. It's not going to fade in. For example, if we have the curve set to the one I'm talking about, we don't want it at where it's like a smooth transition. It'll sound like this. See, when it's here, you can barely hear it. When I bring it here, you can hear it. It's kind of fading. You don't want that. You want your curve to be as sharp as it can be so that as soon as you bring this sound in, the second this fader opens up, you'll hear it at max volume. You'll hear at max volume what's going on this side or vice versa. So now that we got those technical things laid down, your bass is down, your curve is set to it being at its sharpest, and your sample's at 12 o'clock, preferably, but if you have a different point in the clock, you'd like to make your starting point, so be it. It's your gear. But I like to start at 12 o'clock. Reason why is because the goal is to, wherever your sample goes, it has to go back right to where you started for it to be clean. It can't start here and come back here, because then you have space before it and after it. And nobody is precise enough to keep your hand just steady to where you don't hear little stuff like that in there. So you want it at the top of your sample. Here's a baby scratch. It's a simple push forward, push back. You want to push from 12 o'clock to like 3 o'clock and back to 12, depending on the speed or sound you want to play the sound at. Because the faster you push it, the higher the note. The slower you push it, the lower the note. So here's what I mean by that. Push it forward, pull it back. Push it forward, pull it back. That's a baby scratch. Start at the top of your sample, push it, bring it back. Now, the faster you push it, you get different notes. And the slower you push it, you get lower notes. So let's practice that with a beat. And hopefully you're at home and you're able to practice along with me. So if you are, cue up a sample here. You can get these samples for free from Serato. Cue your sample up here and cue your beat up over here, and let's practice it. Here we go. Ready? 5, 6, 7, 8. Forward, back. Forward, back. You're focusing on your positioning for the record. I'm going from 12 to 4, 12 to 4, or to 3. Let's keep going. Speed it up a little bit. So that's the basis of a baby scratch. Notice how at the end I sped it up, like I pressed the record back and forward faster and slower. And again, that's to help, make different sounds in there. So like, if you want to do something like, you can do things like that. Forward, fast, back, slow, or forward, fast, back, slow. That's how you build your combos. Stuff like that. That's how you build your cuts up. Next cut is the chirp scratch. Now, the chirp scratch is where you get your fader involved, and it's very important, again, to have that crossfader set in this way. Otherwise, your cuts aren't going to sound as sharp. Remember, this is a percussion instrument, and in percussion, there are no, like, gradually growing sounds because they're hitting, unless you're, like, progressively, hitting the drum harder, that's going to give you a progressive sound. But the second you make contact with a percussion instrument, it's going to make a sound because you're hitting something, whether you're a piano hitting a string or you're a drummer hitting, the drum. That sound, it's a hit, it's a punch. So, and punches aren't when you get punched, it isn't a gradual pain. It's an immediate, no matter how hard it is, you feel exactly how much it is for what it is when it happens. It's not like, something that'll hit and then the pain will expand. Hopefully that makes sense. So going back to the chirp scratch, the reason why that's important is because your crossfader has to be on the sharpest point. Because with the chirp scratches, it's the baby scratch. But instead, as soon as you push the record forward, you close your fader to get a quick chirp sound like this. And then you bring it back and do the same thing. Here I was just like, chip. And what it is your hands are going in the opposite direction, more or less. Where your hands pushing the record forward. The second you begin to push it, you close the fader here with your thumb, and then you open it back up on the way back. And that positioning is important too, so you don't have any sound back here, because if you chirp up in this area, you run the risk of hearing that on the way back. So your chirp is open fader. As soon as it goes, you close it, You open it. Let's try it with a beat. Do it slow and we'll grow. Here we go. Ready? 5, 6, 7. Let's go slower. That's my bad. My bad. Here we go. 5, 6, 7, 8. I missed that. My bad. It only sounds good when you speed it up a little bit. So we're going to pick it up. Here we go. Let's go. 5, 6, 7. A little faster. Here we go. 5, 6, 7. That's a chirp scratch. Now, our third and final scratch technique that we're going to learn today is called the transformer scratch. This scratch gets its name from the obvious sound that it makes when you do this. When you do the scratch, it sounds like a transformer. Another side note is make sure them hands are nice and warmed up and stretched too. Like, oh man, you want to make sure your wrists are good. Want to make sure you're awake. Make sure your wrists are good because there's a lot of wrist action, especially in the transformer for both hands. And mind you, either hand works with scratches. You know, it's just a matter of which hand you're more comfortable with for your beginning phases. You know, you want to keep it to one hand to practice with, but it is very important to practice scratching with both hands. Moving along. Let's get into this transformer. Now, the transformer is similar to, again, a lot of these scratches, they're based around the baby scratch. So this transformer is you push the record forward, push it back, but you use your crossfader here. What you're doing is you're going to use your thumb, whether it's this side or this side, you're going to use your thumb as a resistance here. You're going to kind of put a little pressure this direction with your thumb. You're going to also use this finger when you're doing the sound to tap. You just tap it, bow, like that. And if you have just enough resistance, you got to find it within yourself. But you want to have enough resistance to where the fader stays closed, but when you tap it, it pops open for just a second so you can get a sound like this. Now it sounds like the chirp. I know what you're thinking, but it's not the chirp. The reason why is because you're going to do 3 to 4 of these in the middle of this. In the middle of your push forward, it'll sound like this. I'm doing 4 of them. Now, if you notice, it sounds like a transformer transforming. So if you can get 4 of them in there, great. But if you can only get 3, that's fine too. Just as long as the same amount you do the same amount forward as backwards. So if we do 1, 2, 3, you got to 1, 2, 3 it right back. And remember where your sample begins and ends. That's, again, important in every cut that you do. So remember, it's going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. With the transformer, you can hold the record or you can let it go. Yeah? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's try it with a beat. Before my computer dies. Remember, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4. But for the sake of this practice, we're just going to do 3. Here we go. And it's important that resistance here. You're pressing, but don't break your shit. Just give it a little pressure. Let's go a little faster. Here we go. Yeah? Let's go a little faster, and I'm going to do 4 clicks this time. So we stay on beat so you can see the transformer gradually get faster. Here we go. 4. Let's go. That's the transformer scratch. Now, those 3 scratches, you could take those 3 scratches and just combine them and make your own scratch routines, baby, chirp, transformer sort of sets. And you find those pockets where, you know, just combining the 3 of them makes the most sense to you. So I'm going to freestyle a little cut and just see if you can notice which scratches are happening where. And when you put them all together and have fun with not only different cuts, but the speed of the record, you get just endless amounts of sounds. So here we go. So that was just a little freestyle right there. And that freestyle is good for your practice when you're practicing your scratch techniques to be able to like, okay, I got the baby unlocked, the chirp unlocked, the transformer unlocked. Let's try to just mix it around and play with them and find a solid little routine. Now, all your scratch routines are going to be different. So the best thing to do is to just practice these techniques. Remember, the placement of the record is most important. Killing your bass helps the sound be a lot cleaner, and to put your crossfader at a spot where the sound is coming immediately in and going immediately out. On top of scratching with tracks, before we go, I just wanted to mention scratching beats in as well is a way that you can scratch beats in as well as opposed to just doing sounds. For example, you can use that to intro your next song. You know what I'm saying? So something like this. Like, let's say we want to bring this song in. If I wanted to scratch her in, it'd be like. And it's a good way to transition between songs. When you scratch a song instead of just dropping it in. The baby scratch is the easiest one to do, obviously. So try practicing scratching your songs in as well with your technique. And that's the basics of scratching, ladies and gentlemen.